Well, good morning, children. How are you today? Children of God, that is. I'm going through my devotions, and what I'm using is the lectionary. This is a collection of readings sort of set out day by day so that over the course of a few years you'd read through pretty much the entire Bible. And it includes always an Old Testament passage, a psalm, a New Testament passage from anywhere in the New Testament, and then a gospel passage. So today's is a little bit interesting in light of circumstances, keeping in mind that these lectionary are published years and years ago, and these things just cycle through. The Old Testament passage is from Exodus 17, and it tells of the Israelite army, the entire nation, moving through the desert, and they get to a place that has no water, and the people just freak out. They lose their minds. They yell at Moses, "Why are you ruining things?" And God says, "Moses, go out in front of all the people and strike the rock with your stick, and water will come out." And he does. And the water comes out of the rock. It's amazing. But then they're really big on naming things in the Old Testament. So he names the place Massa and Meribah because the Israelites quarreled and tested the Lord, saying, "Is the Lord among us or not?" What a question. Is the Lord among us or not? The lectionary passages continue into Psalm 95, and it starts off, "Let us make a joyful noise to the rock of our salvation," water from the rock, rock of our salvation. And then in Romans 5, well, sometimes things happen when you don't have a phone mount. That's okay. So in Romans 5, as it continues, it's talking about how we have come to peace with God, how we have reconnected, been reconciled, brought back to God, how he has saved us. And keep in mind, the people in Israel with the water at the rock, they were upset because they were out of water. They were suffering. Romans 5 starts, we're justified by faith. And since we are, we have peace with God through Jesus. And we boast in our hope. I mean, it continues in this line. But we also boast in suffering, knowing that suffering produces endurance, and endurance produces character, and character produces hope, and hope does not disappoint us. Are you disappointed right now, maybe? Is the suffering feeling like the endurance isn't worth it? The character isn't worth it? We're thirsty for something real, something to save us. Water from a rock even. But God is our rock. God is the rock of our salvation. Since we're justified by faith, we have peace with God. He's our rock. And so what ties this all together then, the Israelites wanted water. God gave them living water through the rock. So the rock becomes our salvation in the Psalm passage. And in Romans 5, how when we rely on God, that he saves us. We see Jesus in John chapter 4 come to a Samaritan city. There's a woman outside at the well. And this one's a crazy story because Jesus shouldn't even be talking to this woman, and he does anyways. And in the course of the discussion, he ends up telling her that if he would listen to her, get to know her, believe in her, that she would find in Jesus living water and never thirst again. Her soul would never thirst again. That's amazing. What would it be like for your soul, that deep inner part of you, to never thirst again? And so this whole rock theme comes up again in this passage because she asks him about how to worship God, on certain mountains, on certain rocks. And Jesus said, the hour is coming when you won't worship on a rock or a mountain, but actually, I'm the Messiah. I'm the one here to help you. I'm the one giving you the living water. And she ends up going out and telling the whole town about it, and they come out to see this guy. It's incredible. Many more believed. Now, they weren't suffering at this point, aside from their usual, just the suffering of being sort of second-class citizens. But in Jesus, they found living water. They found the rock of their salvation. They found something that wasn't a physical mountain, but a Messiah that was going to save them inside and out, that was going to fill them with hope because of their character, because of their endurance, because of their sufferings, because of their peace in God. So it's difficult right now, right? But that's okay. It's okay. Because when we are suffering, when it is hard, when we think we're dehydrated of heart or of thirst, and we're not going to make it, the rock of our salvation can give us water that we don't know anything about. All this talk of water and rocks and salvation and endurance, it really makes me think. So keep in mind that lectionary stuff that was assigned years ago, it was just set on a schedule. So then my personal devotions go beyond that. And I went to 2 Timothy today, 2 Timothy 4, verses 5 through 8. And here's what I'd like to leave you with. Keep a clear mind in every situation. Don't be afraid of suffering for the Lord. Work at telling others the good news and fully carry out the ministry God has given you. As for me, so those first verses, like for me, that just feels especially important. Work at telling others the good news and fully carry out the ministry God has given you. I'm a pastor. This is what I do. But then Paul tells Timothy, who is his ministry protege, Paul says, as for me, my life has already been poured out as an offering to God. So this water theme comes up, that they would offer drink offerings to the Lord at the temple. And Paul's saying his own life, he's lived in such a way that he has been poured out. He has joined in this stream of living water, and whether he lives or dies is almost irrelevant. I've fought the good fight, I've finished the race, and I've remained faithful. Suffering, endurance, character, hope. Now the prize awaits me, the crown of righteousness, which the Lord, the righteous judge, will give me on the day of his return. And the prize is not just for me, but for all who eagerly look forward to his appearing. Do you remember yesterday when we talked about not losing focus on God, not letting anything take God's place in our hearts, like fear? I'm going to keep fighting the good fight, even in this intentional and hopefully societally helpful social isolation, quarantining. It's okay. I'm going to keep doing what I can to pray for you, to help you, to reach out to you, fighting a good fight, finishing a race, remaining faithful, not because I'm trying to save myself, but because God has already saved me. He's already cracked open the rock of my heart so that living water could be poured out, so that I could be filled, given this new life. And I'd love to share that with you. I'd love you to find that same level of hope. I'm scared to death, but it's not going to beat me. And it won't you either. We're going to make it together, even in these slightly isolated times. So I just like to remind you, God is our rock, the rock of our salvation. And he pours out living water for us that refreshes not just our thirst, but our soul. And so as you get refreshed, share that refreshing with others. Be a light, be a help, be a comfort. Let them know they're not alone. I love you. I hope you know that. There's no room for lone wolves in the body of Christ. So if you're struggling, feeling alone, don't try and fix it on your own. Give me or any of the youth sponsors a call. Reach out to some of the other students in the youth group. We're in this together, okay? No room for lone wolves. But in the body of Christ, we're actually stronger because we're better together. That's going to be a rock I stand on today, that God has given us each other. We're going to get through this together. You're loved. You're full of living water. If you simply believe, Jesus is doing this amazing work of salvation in you, and it's all good. I'll talk to you later. Bye.